Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast. My name is Adam Den. Carter Watson and Ethan Leviditis are here with me, having some disjointed gatherings of the crew over the last couple weeks. Michael Hornwell is unable to join us. He is watching a high school swim meet. But how's it going, guys? Are you excited to be here?
Excited to be here. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, should we just introduce the format right now?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very fun show kind of laid out. We figured next week is free agency. It's a big deal. We're going to get to talk about how all these teams are going to allocate their money no matter how exciting the free agent class is. So that's always a big deal. But wanted to start the offseason just by diving into what do these teams need, right? Because, that's a question we're going to be addressing over the next couple weeks. So what we've come up with, and Ethan could probably explain it better than I can, is a draft style format that we're going to use to select what we think are the most interesting teams over the offseason and what their biggest need is, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I would say, it'll pretty much, we'll just go 1, 2, 3. I don't think we should do snake style. It should just be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And it's just pick a team. It'll be probably leaning free agency, but we'll also talk about the draft because that's very important. But also, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams on our first round picks. So it's also very important for a handful of teams to capitalize on free agency. So we can get started. I would say the order can go Adam, Carter, me, and then Adam, Carter, me.
It's a lot of pressure. It's the first pick.
Well, yeah, it's because I don't know where I'm going. That's why.
Well, there is one team that I think I definitely have had on my mind in how crucial this offseason becomes. And they I think have to be the first pick for me, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. And the biggest need, look at Carter, which I outlined for this team, is just any kind of pass rusher. To me, this Baltimore defense has holes all over, right? You're looking at the interior offensive line that looked, not comparable to what it did 2 years ago. You're looking at a receiver core that was not the same as it was in past years. The big DeAndre Hopkins boost didn't necessarily come last year.
Who would have thought?
But no, who would have thought? But I think the edge position is a position that maybe we did see it coming a little more that they would struggle here. They go out, they draft Mike Green, but the status of Nnamdi Mazubuike over the past couple of years has kind of been up in the air, whether it's health or mental health or whatever's going on with him. And outside of him, it really is kind of a bare cupboard, right? You have Travis Jones, Kyle Van Noy is a free agent. Like it's not a lot there, and that has largely over the course of this, Harbaugh's Ravens tenure at the very least, been a strength of this Ravens team, is their ability to function through both lines of the football. So my question is, how are they going to address this? Is it going to be how they have in the past couple of years and try to go through the draft? They've certainly drafted well over the past couple of years, even if the late round flyers on, say, the defensive line group specifically haven't necessarily hit. Or does it look like something where they restructure Lamar Jackson's massive cap hit, which is coming up? Guys, Lamar Jackson is set to make $75 million on the cap this year. I do not foresee a scenario where that's the case. And then look to, make something in free agency. Is there a Trey Hendrickson, a Jalen Phillips, one of these guys that's swirling around that they can kind of chase after? So they are in what is a wide open AFC to me, a team to definitely look out for as we continue this offseason.
All right.
Carter, what you got?
If my reaction didn't give it away, you stole my pick. But I think in place of that, I'll go with a team that I said at some point some point recently, I said that this was my very early pick to be in next year's Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Uh, I kind of always fall for it. Well, they had a good year, but I always expect them to be a bit better than they actually end up being. Primarily because of my belief in Trevor Lawrence, but I think that this coming into this season, they're now in a place where I feel comfortable saying that they're among the best teams in the AFC and among the best teams in the league. To build upon that, I think that they'll need to do some addition to the secondary. They made the trade for Greg Newsome that didn't quite work. The safety group just hasn't been very good. Otherwise, they're going to need more from the inside of that O line. Cleveland hasn't been great, but I'm interested to see how they attack that with having after coming off a great year where they struggled with a few injuries throughout the season. They still managed to make the playoffs, got pretty close to beating Buffalo. So I'm interested to see how they go forward.
Yeah, I mean, Carter, I think the most interesting thing with them is they don't have a lot of cap space and they don't
Yeah.
have any draft capital. So
Yeah.
I think that's a team that's interesting to me because they're going to have to find a way to create that goes beyond the traditional ways we look at it, right? That's maybe a team that looks to explore the trade market. Do they bring a guy like Newsome back? You know, I think wasn't he expiring this year? Like that's something. Yeah, he's a free agent, so I think that's something to watch out for as this goes along. How do they try to be creative in order to maneuver this? Devin Lloyd. I mean,
He's all pro. He's a free agent. Yeah.
Yep. So they're gonna have to do a lot to kind of work around traditionally and maybe spend more than they traditionally do.
All right. Okay. Been going back and forth. Oh yeah. This is where we'll go. Sorry, I'm keeping a
Keeping a tally.
Keeping a tally.
I'm using check marks though.
Sorry, I'm not old fashioned. I'm going the Cardinals and the line. I have to. It's just
Really?
They're one of the more intriguing options in this draft because you can say edge, you can say linebacker, you can say I mean not maybe receiver, like a third receiver.
You can. Running back.
Yeah, running back, secondary, quarterback, safety. So pretty much every position but tight end. But
and left tackle.
Yeah, well, they have Paris Johnson, and
yeah.
The reason I chose this is because their spot at 3 just has become very interesting over the course of the combine and just draft in general because we are now in a position where we don't know if it'll be stuck at tackle, but I believe that's like the best option because with the quarterback class and with the depth of the edge class, I think tackle is definitely the best way to go. I don't know if I have a complete preference of Spencer Fana from Utah or Precious Maui Noah from Miami, but that is like the most important position for them right now because last year was bad, especially with Paris Johnson having innumerable injuries over his career to this point, and having a franchise tackle is something that's extremely hard to come by now. And in this new Mike LaFleur era, that's probably going to be the most pertinent aspect of the game. But yeah, again, the Cardinals situation is so interesting because at 3, it could be anyone from Sonny Styles to Jeremiah Love to the tackles that I mentioned, or one of the edges, Ruben Bain or David Bailey. But I think they just need to get a better offensive identity because I think the defense is not good, but they at least have pieces. And on offense, I can name, I think, Paris Johnson, Michael Wilson, and Trey McBride are the only guys I have somewhat stock in, and that's it.
Yeah. No, and I think it's interesting from a schematic perspective, right? Because Michael LaFleur won. Like,
Yeah.
what does this new look defense? For years, they've had this Jonathan Gannon defense, which has been kind of like a smorgasbord of like, we don't have necessarily the talent, but we're going to play all these exotic zone looks and get you that way. And then they finally got the talent and they were like, we still want to play this way because we don't think we have enough talent. So what
Yeah.
does it look like when they just start playing like a normal defense?
Mhm.
Like, and what pieces do they want to look like a normal defense? Like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting. It's very intriguing.
Yeah. And that's why I picked the line, because the I can name 10 edges that I would be happy taking in the first round, in
Yeah.
the top 50.
Yeah.
And with the line, it's like you have 2 blue chips and the rest you're sort of rolling the dice. So,
Yeah.
and
No,
a tackle, that's not something you can afford to do.
no, especially with what they've dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I am all in on that one. I am going to go back to the AFC, and I am going to take the New England Patriots here.
All right.
This is a team that I think is interesting because they sit, for as far as they've come, they sit at a crossroads now.
That's right.
And we saw the disparity between them and what it takes for a team to win the Super Bowl. We saw the path that they took to get to the Super Bowl, which I think we would all agree was much lighter than it probably will look a year from now.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of serious needs and a lot of money to kind of invest in doing so still. Even with the amount of money they spent last summer, I believe they still have about $50 million in cap space to kind of work around and figure this offseason out.
Yeah.
So how are you going to address the right tackle position?
Okay.
I feel solid that Will Campbell is going to be your left tackle. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys, I'm not going to come on here and be Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. I said the guard thing, but that's only because you gotta ask questions after something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think he'll be okay.
I'm fine. I mocked him at 4 last year, so it's not like I disagree with you.
Yeah. But Morgan Moses was also really bad, and that doesn't
he's old.
necessarily help. And he's incredibly old. Yes. This pass rush group is still missing a ton of juice, and Kalavon Chason is a free agent. Harold Landry, I believe, is a free agent. Are you gonna get like real dudes that can play football in that room and not just like 1 year 30-year-old flyers that might show some explosiveness but aren't necessarily going to be stout 3-down guys? What does it look like at the wide receiver position? Is a certain number 11 being chased down with draft capital? I think that's a serious question. Tight end still, do you want some depth for Henry? This secondary, you gave Carlton Davis a lot of money, but there were a lot of fluctuations throughout the season at that point. This safety room is very young. It's a 6th-round pick on that safety room. So there's a lot of holes along this roster that can be shored up across this offseason through the draft and through free agency to kind of bridge the gap. Can they make the right decisions to be able to do that? I think that's going to be the question.
All right.
Yeah. Carter Watson.
Yeah. Okay. I think that I am going to go with the Los Angeles Rams.
Good one.
When you look at this team, obviously the roster is very strong, and they have over $40 million in cap. They could do better at corner. I was never sold with the Emmanuel Forbes thing, even though it was working at times.
It was.
It'll probably stick.
It will, but I mean, it's not impossible to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to point out a weak spot on the roster, I'd definitely say the cornerback position.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, Matthew Stafford, for as great as he is, and he hasn't shown many signs of slowing down, he's 38. And you're at a position now where you have to start to look at who was the next quarterback going to be. They don't have someone waiting in the wings because Jimmy Garoppolo is their backup, and I believe he's a free agent anyways. So now when you think about it, you have the main thing that you have to think about almost is not even an immediate help situation, which feels bizarre on a contender, but rather who's the quarterback after Stafford? Because how confident can you be that Matthew Stafford will be playing in 2027? And how confident can you be that the quarterback class in 2027 will be favorable enough to kick it until then? That's including both the free agent class and the draft class. There's not really an ideal situation to be needing a quarterback that you don't want to start right away in free agency. And for every team that isn't Las Vegas, it's just not a situation where you want a quarterback in the draft. And so it becomes questionable. Do you want to maybe take a gamble on somebody who you can grab at the end of round one or into the later rounds? Do you want to? They won't be able to sign Malik Willis because somebody will start Malik Willis. But there's just so many ways that they can attack seemingly the only real issue on their team, which is funny because the issue in question, they have the current MVP starting there.
Yeah. No, I completely agree that it's an issue. I think we also have to look at tackle too, though, right?
No,
I mean,
I would stop on tackle. I think Warren McClendon was like a top 10 rated guy on PFF.
he was, but didn't their left tackle retire?
Rob Havenstein was the
Isn't
right
he-
tackle. He got hurt, but they extended Alaric Jackson.
Okay,
So I think it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So we'll find out. But I think that's certainly a position they can address in the draft. And I mean, I think they are one of my prime trade back candidates as well,
Yeah.
simply because, like you said, this not a great quarterback class. You try to compile the assets to make next summer the year. I think that's going to be the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do I go here? Okay, this one's tricky. Actually, okay. I don't like doing the same position 2 times, but I'm picking the Browns for the line again.
Yeah.
Because if for those that don't know, I think all 5 of their starters are free agents.
Yep.
And they have no money.
Yep. That's bad.
And there's no guarantee that Fano and Marino are available at 6. So it is a nightmare for the Browns. And again, let's see. It says they're -8 right now, according to Spotrac. The free agency class isn't even that good.
No.
And yeah, I'll start with the draft because you can't do anything with negative money. I mean, they can restructure something, but they're at a point so far that they're just eating the rest of the Watson contract and then going from there. Yeah, I think there's a serious chance that the Browns use both their first round picks on linemen. I think it probably should be the case because I would say theoretically we'll say one of the 2 of Fano and Marino are there because teams get like David Bailey or Sonny Styles go earlier, which I think is very possible. And then the 24, that's when you take the swing and like the Monroe Freelings or the you're talking about like Max Ianachor or Caleb Lomu maybe. You could because Caleb Lomu is a left tackle and Fano's a right tackle, so that solves your problem pretty easily. You don't have to worry about sort of positional conversion. And the line class is decently top heavy at tackle. At guard, it's guard and center, whatever interior offensive line. It's mixed bag. I think only one. I think pretty comfortable. Only one's going on day 1, and maybe 2 others on. And by the time we get to pick like 50, so yeah, it's a weird situation. I can't think of another time this has ever happened.
No.
And the line also just wasn't even that good last year. So now you just have to completely reinvent because Todd Monk is coming in to we were talking about the Cardinals is a terrible situation. This team does not have an employed offensive lineman to start.
Yeah.
And the ones that you probably will be are rookies that are coming into a new environment with no mentors, probably. So, yeah.
No, it's quite bad. There's some restructuring you can do. And I expect them to do it. They will let David Njoku walk. The nice thing is this is the last year of the Watson cap hit, so all $80 million will come come full frontal here, and they can even add some void years to that, to where even though he's going to become a free agent, you can lessen that cap hit. But it's pretty brutal. I would like to mention them in the Cade Mays and Rasheed Walker and all those conversations because, those seem like the kind of guys who would in another year, be there. But man, it's going to be tough to pay them. I'm with you there. Where I think I'm going to go is, man, I cannot get out of the AFC because I think there's so many intriguing teams here. And I'm going to go to the team that I actually, when we did our post-Super Bowl podcast, we had Super Bowl predictions. And I said this was going to be the AFC representative. I said I'm going to go to the Los Angeles Chargers. And this team is incredibly interesting to me because they have perhaps the singular biggest need of any playoff contender, and that is on the interior offensive line. I don't think any playoff contender has a singular bigger need at a respective position than the Chargers need guards. And they have the cap space to do it. Will they make the move? Zion Johnson, I expect to be back. He did play better over the latter part of last season, but are they going to pay up to sign one of these dudes, or are they going to look to the draft to sign one of these dudes? And then I think we're ignoring the fact as well that with this new defensive staff, they're also looking at a completely shaken up defensive line. Khalil Mack and Odafe Owe are free agents. Are they going to be able to get those guys back? How are they going to balance prioritizing that with prioritizing what's been their biggest issue over the last couple of years? How do they prioritize depth at those positions as well? Because do you really all in and trusting that Alt and oh my
Slater,
God. Slater, yeah. See, it's been a year. I can't even bring up Slater's name. Yeah, I know. But it's going to be interesting to see how they figure that out. And then still have other needs across the entirety of the roster, I would say, right? Like, this corner room is by no means elite. I think you can definitely get small upgrades there. Do they want to try to add another weapon, maybe at tight ends? I love Will Dissly as much as the next guy. I expect this Mike McDaniel offense to continue to work towards having tight ends who are great in space and finding zones, great with yards after the catch. They look to employ maybe like an Isaiah Likely to get in the fold in that respect. They have a lot of options here with not a ton of money, but enough money to maybe make something happen. I think if they do, that is a team that I think is going to be scary a year from now.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I will go with the division rival of the LA Chargers, rather. I will go with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow.
This is a very interesting one to me because last season they had, I don't want to say hype, but there were some believers.
He's not on the call. Oh, he had him winning 10 games. Huh?
He has him winning 10 games again. You better talk
Probably.
to him soon.
He'll never learn. Yeah, that's fine.
He said it last night.
Yeah, there were some people who liked the Geno Smith edition, and that didn't work. Much was said about that not working, but I mean, the roster is just bad. It's a bad football team.
God.
There's about 5 good players on it, and
I don't even know if we
in the 5, I'm counting Max Crosby, who is not a lock to be on that roster anymore. They could use
3.
I'd say at minimum 3 new offensive linemen. They could get a brand new receiver core. they could redo the entire defense except for Max Crosby, perhaps, who is probably not going to be back, or at least potentially won't be back. But it's an interesting spot because they have their quarterback, at least we assume as such, in Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of money to spend, so it's interesting to see how they go about that. If they can build something that'll, one, how they decide to attack the offseason, because they can sign almost anyone, and there's an opportunity for that player to be a starter and an impactful player because the team's just bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And they'll have the space to do it. That's the other thing. But they failed so many times when they've had the space to do it. And it's not like you're turning over from a front office perspective. And so I think that's going to be incredibly interesting. They're going to take on some dead cap from cutting Gino. We'll see how much that incurs. But I'm excited to see this front office's first real draft, I would say. And, how they maneuver trying to work themselves into contention with that. So we're going to find out a lot about Tom Brady this year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's just where we'll go. Okay. That's my third pick. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans. They have many places to go. It's similar to the Cardinals and the Browns. It's teams that are high in the draft and could go wherever. But I'm picking pass rush this time because they got Jermaine Johnson, but that also leaves a hole both on interior defensive line and edge, because I don't know who I couldn't. Is it Oladejo on the other side right now?
Who for Tennessee?
Yeah, is Oladejo from UCLA?
Yeah, but they have Jermaine Johnson.
I know, but that's one guy.
Yeah.
I think it's still a serious need, and I don't think he'll fully play there. But a lot of people are saying, "Hey guys, Ruben Baines built like a defensive tackle. Why does he play there?" So I think it's very much a possibility that they go edge, and even if they don't in the draft, which is possible because they could get a Carnell Tate, they could get a Jeremiah Love, could go line. In free agency, they could go out and get like a Jalen Phillips or a Dafayowe pretty easily with the amount of cap space that they have. So yeah, they have the most in the league. So I have no concerns about that. I think they could even be on the trade market for somebody. I don't know. I don't think Max Crosby. I think that's that's somehow a downgrade of situation for him. So
he would hold out. Yeah,
I think it was solid. He wouldn't mind it, but in general,
no, I don't think it's a downgrade situation. But I'm also a Cam Ward truther.
So am I.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say pass rush because you swap out a young, I don't think he's amazing, young defensive tackle in T'Vondre Sweat for an edge who's expiring, and you have no idea how this new addition will produce. And the other side is still a major hole in the defense, and they have the both the draft capital and the finances to upgrade in that area.
Yeah. And we haven't gotten the chance to talk about it. It's been a week, but ridiculous trade, bad trade, very bad trade
for the Titans.
T'Vondre Sweat is a very good football player on a very cheap contract, and you do not trade those guys.
Yeah, and he still has like 2 or 3 years left.
Yep. And Jermaine Johnson is a kind of okay football player
who just so happened
very
to play
good at one thing.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So not good. Not very impressed there as somebody who's been a Titans believer. This is tough because there are three teams who I'm thinking about who all are kind of in the same position, needing the same things. I'm trying to decide which one is the most interesting. I think I'm going to go to the one with the most at stake, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team that has for years now struggled to find any semblance of a defense, and now it's kind of coming to reap what they've sown, given Zach Taylor's current job status. So all the pressure is on this year. This team needs to make the playoffs, and I mean, they don't necessarily have the money to do it. That is the other thing, that Joe Burrow has enforced the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase contracts, and of course, the Bengals front office has made sure that they are as financially inflexible as possible in doing so. So it's it really is a shit show here. You the probability of them re-signing Trey Hendrickson, I'd say, is very low. And they are probably going to pursue a bunch of different needs across the defense, right? Do you look to continue to shore up this safety room? I was listening to the Athletics podcast. They had the Bengals beat writer on, and he was talking a lot about how young this linebacker core was last year and how desperately Al Golden wanted kind of a veteran presence in there. So does that mean like a Demario Davis or a Caden Ellis? That could be interesting. But edge and defensive line continues to be the biggest need. This is a team that's been bottom 5 in pressure rate for like the past 3 years. It cannot happen again. And I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't sign at least 2 guys just to continue to build out depth there and then prioritize that in the draft as well. So it's going to be interesting in Cincinnati. We're going to see what this looks like when these guys finally have their feet to the fire, and I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears here.
Interesting.
This one sticks out to me just because for all the turnovers their defense forced, it wasn't actually very good. They gave up a lot of yards, especially in the run game, and their defensive line was less than impressive to me, and they don't have a lot of money to spend. So looking at it, it feels as if Father Time is beginning to catch up to Grady Jarrett. It felt like Gervon Dexter took a step back from 2024. And I believe Nashawn Wright's available in free agency.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be imaginative because they have a normal amount of draft capital, but not some like King's ransom of we're just going to draft like 5 day one starters. So it's interesting. I think that they've got to focus on the interior D line and perhaps get a cornerback at some point in the offseason. Because the offense looks good. The offense looks good. There's a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, and they were able to score points with just about everybody last season.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the cap space thing is interesting with what they're looking at right now. I think, trading DJ Moore is probably going to be their prerogative this offseason, and we'll see how much that frees and where the destination for him is going to be. He's the guy I'm going to throw out for a bunch of these teams. I probably should have thrown his name out for New England. But yeah, they have to get better defensively. I'm in complete agreement. And, that regression is facing them if they don't.
All right. Okay. I'll stick to the NFC. We've stuck mostly AFC. I mean, that's fine. We'll get to all these teams. But I will go with the San Francisco 49ers right here and talk about receiver because it's a mess.
Yeah.
Brandon Ayuk angrily driving through the facilities. Not playing for them ever again.
Yeah.
Ricky Pearsall was hurt for most of the year. And Jawan Jennings, a free agent. And you're at 27 right now. And you have, two things. You're at 27 in the draft. You have to be in the next tier of receivers because I think Tyson, Tate, and Lemon will be gone.
Yeah.
But for cap space, they're about like 20 million. So that's like enough for like a low end one, like an Alec Pierce sort of type.
Mhm.
So I think that is an option, but also they have much bigger needs to address through free agency. I think the receiver options are not that great. And I was talking with Adam earlier, I think yesterday, 2 days ago. This is Omar Cooper, Central. We got to do it. It's amazing. It'll be perfect.
He's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And even with that, like you can convince me to go with like some of the other second tier guys, like a Concepcion. It's like I think he's a little small, but I think that fits fine with what they do offensively. But
yeah, no, I agree, and I think we have to bring up this Brent Williams thing, right? Like the reports now that he might not stay, and how does that affect your ability
you cannot,
to go
and
receive?
there's no feasible way to even replicate like half of
Yeah.
his production. So
No, absolutely. So, with the offense potentially taking that giant step back, how do you look to approach it this offseason? But he has to be back. That's not debatable. I am going to go with the other team that I was thinking about last time, which somehow made it all the way around the full road, and that is the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. The thing with the Cowboys for me is they were prime Sonny Styles territory. Now that's not happening.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. We do it every year, right? Jerry likes sexy.
Actually. Yeah.
But you listened to Jerry's presser from yesterday, and wasn't very sexy. There was a lot of talk of prioritizing guys who can make an impact now, and there was a lot of talk of I know, scoff Micah.
It sounds like a Hugh Mesidor.
Yes, and there was a lot of talk of the trust he has in the continuity offensively and the resources that they're going to put into fulfilling their obligations on defense. That being said, you've got 2 first-round picks and enough cap space that you can start to look around at these secondary options and maybe like the safety position and really look to bolster this defense. They are in need of talent at just about every single position. And you mentioned a guy in Styles, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they look at that and they say, hey, like, he's a fantastic athlete, he's an impact player, but I need an impact player at a more important position at this point. And I'm saying that with Sonny Styles being 3rd on my NFL draft board right now.
Yeah.
But this is a cornerback class with guys like Mansour Delane and Jamal McCoy, and those are guys who I think would fit very well with Christian Parker being the developer of secondary players that he's been over his career. And you also look at a defensive line class that I think you have a lot more faith in the edges at the top, as deep as it is, than you do the ones at the bottom. I mean, there's a big difference between Keldrick Falk and Zion Young. I'll throw that out there.
Okay.
So I think I'm very interested to see how he approaches it. And, this is probably their most important offseason in a long time. Oh, and does he get a long-term deal with George Pickens? That too.
Yeah.
The fact that I didn't even mention that, the fact that I spent 5 minutes talking about the Dallas Cowboys, I didn't mention that their 3rd best player probably is sitting on a franchise tag and looking for a long-term deal. It tells you a lot about what this offseason means to
them. I'm debating on 2 teams. One of them I intend to just let somebody else do it. So I will go for the Kansas City Chiefs here.
Good one. That was my next choice.
Yeah. They've got an aging roster, and even with that, last season was a disappointment. I guess their record ended up slightly worse than it otherwise would have been if they had Mahomes instead of, what was that guy's name they let close the last few games?
Mm,
Chris Aluakon.
Yeah,
yeah.
but they were basically already out of the playoffs at that point. It was just a disappointment of the year, or a disappointment of a year, and they're gonna have to retool that offense and get younger. They don't have a lot of money, so they're gonna have to draft well, and I think they're gonna have to draft well throughout the entire weekend. It's going to be imperative that they
Mhm.
find players who can give them something in days 2 and 3.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
that's been a major. Yep, you can keep going. Sorry.
yeah, it's a tough spot just because you've got Chris Jones getting up there in age. You've got Travis Kelce obviously getting up there in age. You have Patrick Mahomes, what, into his 30s now, and
31.
into his 31
Yeah.
years old, and now off an ACL tear.
Yeah.
Something that feels like it goes under the radar because it seems like it was not that long ago Patrick Mahomes was Alex Smith's young backup, but they've got an old roster around the board. Obviously, there's still some strong pieces and there's ways to gear, but I think that the main thing is they're going to need some receiver help. I don't like Xavier Worthy very much.
No.
There's not like a soft way for me to put it. I just don't think he's very good. Rasheed Rice, when he's out of trouble
No.
and on the field, is a good player,
Bad
but
news
that
is that
probably won't be an option
I don't
anytime
think that's
soon.
happening.
It's not happening.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to figure some things out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they're in a spot now where, I was listening again, this athletic podcast, they had their Chiefs writer come on too, and he was talking about, he was like, all these people are pitching us Jeremiah Love. There's so many needs across this roster besides
Yeah.
running back.
Yeah.
Sexy is that.
It
So
is
I think,
yeah.
yeah,
It's not as bleak as the Raiders, but it's very much it's the best player. We got to get he's going to contribute the most because he's the best player. That's not how it works actually.
no. I mean, people want to talk about Brees Hall. The amount of money that Brees Hall is going to take up, you can probably get, 2 rotational interior defensive linemen that would make all the difference for this team.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting offseason, that's for sure.
All right. Okay, I've been wanting to go here for a while. I just haven't really settled on it. But what round are we in? We're in round 5. We're in round 5. Okay. We're getting through it.
We're going through it.
I'm going with the Panthers and the edge here because it is one of the more bleak edge rooms in the NFL, and where they're at 19 is not really an ideal place to be in because you're past David Bailey and Ruben Bain, and then you're in like this Keldrick Falk, Hakeem Mesidor, Cassius Howell sort of territory, and I frankly don't think that would be nearly enough for them to feel satisfied with how that position group is. And they don't have a ton of money. They have so much money dedicated to their interior offensive line and was their offensive line in general. And Derek Brown and JZ Horn, like obviously those make sense, but you have like Nick Scorton on the edge. He's like
He's good.
He's good, but if you want to compete and prove that you weren't just like 8 and 9 and just the best out of the worst division in the league, you gotta invest in what is probably the most coveted position in this draft. And I don't know how they're going to do that. I feel like it would be like the more Falk and Mesidor tier, but it's very interesting to see how it's going to go because this could be a class where just guys fly off by the time they get to 19, and that's really in a way like the tragedy of making the playoffs and then having a worst draft pick when you were still pretty much in a rebuild.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they were last in pressure rate and they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like that tells you something. And I don't like you said, I don't know what direction, how they can go there. They spent a lot of money last offseason on the Tershawn Whartons of the world and Probably will want to invest a little more in keeping the continuity they've had at their skill positions over the next couple years. You know, the Ted extension. You know what happens with Jalen Coker, but that needs to be emphasized and getting more talent in there and really seeing what you can, how you can maximize this team in the last year of Bryce Young under a rookie deal before you have to decide whether or not you want to extend him. So yeah, that is good. I'm going to pivot. I was not going to go here, and then I was looking at it, and I was like, man, I got to go here. I'm going to take the Minnesota Vikings, who I think are in a lot of interesting waters this offseason for bad reason. This is one of the most expensive teams in football, and they won 9 games. And they are one of the most expensive teams in football with a rookie quarterback in place who the current organization, the current front office did not draft and who played awful last season and are built to win now, but are going to have to make a decision whether or not they can do that or with the current timeline with that rookie quarterback. So I'm very interested to see how they approach that position. Does it look like a Mac Jones? That's been what everybody's had circled for months now. I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I think the Niners are probably a little concerned about what the Brock Purdy health situation looks like over the next couple of years. He's gotten hurt like every year over the last 3 years. Is it a Tanner McKee? Is it a Spencer Rattler that you could bring in, like a youngish quarterback, throwaway pick, bring him in? Or do you go the veteran route? Are you going to chase Kirk Cousins back down and bring him into the building to see if you can possibly be a contender? Could you even be a Malik Willis team? They'd have to do a lot of cap maneuvering, but it could happen. Aaron Rodgers, there were connections last offseason.
The Brett Favre, the full Brett Favre circle.
Yeah, it would be. So that's I think, we haven't talked quarterback yet, but I think of all the quarterback situations in the NFL, that is by far the most interesting to me because that's the easiest place to step in and be great. And for a team that really needs it. So that's interesting to me. They have needs at safety and corner, but it's a Brian Flores defense, guys. Like they're going to figure that out. Yeah, they could use some help in their run game, but it would help for their quarterback to be able to read a football field. So, we'll find out if they're going to be able to get a guy who can.
Hang on. Yeah, I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that was my pick.
Coming into the year, I thought Tyler Shuck would be in a situation where he'd play like 2 games and they'd go back to Rattler forever, or at least for the rest of the year and into next season. That hasn't happened. And so this is kind of two-faceted. One, I'm interested to see if they can move away from Spencer Rattler and what they could get for him if they decide to do that, because I'd imagine some team would be willing to start him, like somebody who misses out on Malik Willis and doesn't have much of a backup plan.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm curious in how can you rebuild that offense that's not all the way torn down, but they moved on from Rashid Shaheed. They're going to need to think about at some point in the offseason or perhaps the late rounds of the draft, a running back. It looks like Alvin Kamara is losing it a bit. The interior of the O-line, aside from McCoy, I'd say wasn't very good. I didn't think what's his name? Ruiz. I didn't think Ruiz was very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways you can go with that, but for me, the most interesting thing will be because they never do. They don't have any money, so the interesting thing will be, can they get anything for Spencer Rattler, and what can they make out of that situation, basically?
Yeah. No, I do think it's interesting. And like I just said, there's going to be a lot of teams that are in that market. I'm stunned that he hasn't been one of the most talked about guys simply because, he's been probably the most prolific out of any of them besides Willis when he's actually played. So I think we definitely need to start having that discussion, especially given how good Tyler Shuck's been. And I mean, it could be like a third round pick. It's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I will go with. Okay. Yeah, I'll go with the Jets here. They're one of those situations where it's like there's a billion needs. It's like quarterback, obviously. They're not going with a quarterback with their first two picks, God willing. But I'll say edge here after they dealt Jermaine Johnson, because I mean, free agency, I can't imagine it'll be too nice to them, because again, their organization right now is just in such a disaster. I don't think anybody really wants to play for them, but they do have money. Sometimes that matters more. So, but also this is they're mostly being mocked one of Ruben Bain or Arval Reese right now. I think that should be where they go, and I think they would mesh very well in this. Jesus Christ, I know his name.
Market.
Aaron Glenn. He's
Oh,
a coach.
yeah.
I think it would be good in that scheme, and especially the versatility of Arvo Reese. I think would be very valuable. And I'm saying edge and there's a general need, but I think the way they address that could be with like a veteran like a Trey Hendrickson, just throw him $25 million a year because you have the money. But I would prefer them just to continue to add young talent and develop internally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this is a team where every time I do a mock draft, I find it funny because you go on the mock draft database team needs thing, and pretty much every position is their team need. I mean, we were laughing about the Arizona Cardinals, but I think the Jets are right up there in competition with them for teams that need the most. The position they probably need the least now is probably the position that they went and spent all the resources to draft last year, and that's offensive tackle. Now left tackle, I know
that's their only great situation. And
yeah. So I agree. I'm interested in them, and I think the offense as well with Engstrand out and Frank Reich in and Glenn on the hot seat. Like it is.
No, you're free agent running back. You don't have your receiver two right now is AD Mitchell. Like it's bad.
It's bad. So we're gonna find out a lot about them. All right, boys, it's time. I'm gonna take the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
I let them go this far, just because I think, there are varying levels of reaction to what's going on in this building. There's definitely a scenario where I could be picking them very higher because they've traded AJ Brown and they don't have any assets, and this is purely a disaster. But there is also a scenario in which this team looks very similar to how it did a year ago and are bringing in a new offensive coordinator who hopefully brings in some new ideas, and everything is fine in kumbaya. However, this is the city of Philadelphia, and we know that won't happen. So I think as far as biggest need is just Jalen Phillips. Biggest need is Jalen Phillips staying in the building. That is what I think is biggest need. He is the perfect fit in this Vic Fangio defense. Any way which you can maneuver the cap space to keep him as well as extend Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter long term, that is the win of this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to go out and sign blah, blah, blah. All these Eagles fans are like, oh, my God, we should, chase after a new corner in free agency and invest a little more in the market. Oh, my God, we should sign we should chased after before it was Kyle Pitts. So try and go get Kyle Pitts. I'm like, dude, you have literally the perfect player, maybe the best player in all of free agency, wants to stay on your team.
Yeah.
Make it happen, Howie Roseman. So that's going to be my question. And then as the draft goes, it's just about prioritizing the future, right? All of this offensive money that you have being funneled in, all these high value players, are now going to shift to the defensive side of the ball because of, how you drafted. You have to work backwards on offense. You need younger tight ends, you need younger starters across your offensive line. How do you look to continue to prioritize that? So I think it's definitely end of the road kind of offseason. Nick Sirianni, for whatever you'll hear in the Philadelphia media, I definitely do think he is on the hot seat, and we're going to find out a lot.
Yeah. The Eagles were the team that I decided I was going to let somebody else take on. I'll go with the Buffalo Bills here. I feel like every single time I've mentioned the Bills in this podcast ever, I'm saying something negative, but I hate the way this organization is ran so much. And this feels like the perfect opportunity to give yourselves something of a fresh start. And they didn't get off to a good start with that press conference where they decided everything to ever happen was not the fault of anybody who currently works for the Buffalo Bills. But I think you're gonna need more receivers on a pretty solid roster. Generally, maybe it's Josh Allen covering up more holes than I'm considering, but I think that all in all, they're not in the worst situation ever. For me, I look at them as almost a trade up candidate for one of the higher receivers in this draft. Just because the money's not really there, and they've got to get some better talent in the pass catchers.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. But I mean, edge, interior offensive line, free agents, like there are, I think, an underrated amount of needs for this Buffalo Bills team to continue to get back to that moment. And I think they're kind of being overshadowed by how great the end of the postseason run was. Like, oh my God, you took it to the Denver Broncos, who probably would have made it to the Super Bowl had Bo Nix gotten hurt. But at the same time, it's also like this was by far the worst Josh Allen team, and they're going to have to address the talent around him. And I think that comes through the draft, right? They haven't drafted well over the past couple of years. That comes through a funnel of young talent, but it's pressure's on for Brandon Beane. That's another guy who had made a name for himself, but clock's ticking.
Yeah. Okay. There's a billion places I can go right now, but I will go with the New York Giants here.
Oh.
Because we haven't talked about actually you've done half of the NFC, so I want to pick one of the teams, and them at 5 is a very, very interesting situation because Wanda Robinson, a free agent, they probably will let him walk, and but also the secondary is a train wreck currently. So I'll say secondary as the primary need, but also you need to get a strong number 2. And I don't think their money situation is even that good. I think they have $5 million cap, so they'll have to do a little bit of maneuvering to get a free agent on either in the secondary or a receiver. But I'm looking Caleb Downs here. I'm looking Colonel Tate here, and again, it's a whole new regime at coaching. And that's it. It's like it's reverse Ravens. Like terrible front office, but a good, like a respected and historic coaching regime.
Yeah,
and I have no idea what they'll do in the draft because my best guess would be receiver because they're like, well, we have a rookie quarterback
Really?
and we have a rookie quarterback and a rookie scale deal, so we gotta address that. But same time, these Ohio State guys, uh, like Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles, could very much be New York Giants by the time we get to the draft.
Yeah.
So I'll for me, I'll say secondary because I can not name one player on the secondary that I have full confidence with by the time of the beginning of the season. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it needs a revamping. Lots of people are talking Caleb Downs. Lots of people are talking Delane. I also think we should point out Jermaine Illuminor is a free agent, so
yeah,
there's a need at right tackle. There's certainly a need on the interior of their offensive line where
mhm,
I think it's just Marcus Mbow, right, who's
yeah,
who's started right now. So that's another place they could go. I think they could be a Maui Goa team or a Fano team or try to invest in that way in free agency if Illuminor truly gets a good enough deal, or if he doesn't, because honestly he was kind of shitty at points last season. So we'll see. Um, I'm gonna stay in the division, and I'm
yeah.
gonna
You're
go with
confused
Washington
about.
Commanders and knock them right off. We're done with the NFC East. We don't have to share any more about our tri-state area. The Washington Commanders are interesting to me because they, in our modern NFL, the pressure and the turnaround has become so quickly. And just as I just talked about how Nick Sirianni is under the fire, I believe Dan Quinn is even more so,
Yeah,
and probably for much better reason. Right? They were an awful football team last year. He fired both of his coordinators, not just one, and now will look essentially like the scapegoat if they get any kind of similar result this season. And so they need to interject life into this defense. It's kind of a similar situation to what it looked like in Cincinnati. The only difference is they had life in that defense and they just let them all walk or traded
mhm,
them over the last couple of years. You know, you let Montez Sweat out of the building, you let John Allen out of the building. Like it just starts to kind of derode. So I think that's where I expect them to prioritize early in the draft. This secondary also needs a lot of work. They made that Marshawn Lattimore trade 2 years ago. It has not panned out in any capacity. He's been pretty terrible for them. I expect him to be either a trade or a cut candidate.
yeah,
I love Mikey Sarancel. We were just talking about him before the show. He's one of my guys, my short king. Him playing full outside corner snaps for another year might be a little risky. And this safety room is awful. They are atrocious. I expect
mhm,
this to be a prime safety free agency team. They have a lot of money. They are going to be able to spend it. Um, I assume they're going to let Debo Samuel walk, so that'll free up even more. But it's looking dry. And that's without mentioning like the skill positions, right? I mean, you're now looking at Terry McLaurin and nobody else
mhm,
as far as that skill room, and even the offensive line, like at points was not good last year. So
mhm.
there's a lot of holes across this roster, and there's a lot of ground they need to make up to truly be a good football team again this year. And this staff is reliant on them being a good football team this year. So we'll find out.
Hmm. I think I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm.
It's things looked so good pretty late into the season, and then even they lost a few games, and it didn't seem like the sky was falling until Daniel Jones got hurt, and not just the fact that he was not only hurt and missed the end of the year that ended up bouncing out of the playoffs, but the fact that he suffered an Achilles injury. It's hard to go. It's hard to be confident in him going forward, despite the fact that he had a pretty solid year. Uh, Anthony Richardson doesn't want to be in Indianapolis anymore. So that's whatever. I suppose he wasn't really going to make much of an impact, but still, there's an interesting quarterback situation. One thing that I'm willing to float that I haven't seen many people say, and maybe I'm like completely overlooking something, but I feel as if Malik Willis to Indianapolis isn't the most far fetched thing ever. Um, from the player's perspective, it's an interesting offense to play in. There's a lot of talent, and they had things. They were doing well on offense before that injury came. O line's great. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is an amazing player. But they're in another situation, like we've said, with just about every quarterback needy team. Whereas if you cannot get your hands on Malik Willis, then what do you do? Do you push quarterback to the wayside for a year and deal with what you have? Which for me, for Indianapolis specifically, that seems like the best idea. But that's an under the radar thing that I feel like not enough people are floating as an idea. I think there's a interesting. I think there's a feasible outcome where Malik Willis is an Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah. I agree with you that I think people have wrapped up this Daniel Jones thing as too much of a guarantee. I would still lean them going that way. I think it's going to be a shorter term deal than it would have been, with much less guarantee than it would have been. But I think this Sauce Gardner trade really locked them into this, man. Like,
Yeah.
it really locked them into this window where they need this to happen. And so I think it's going to be incredibly interesting to see it play out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes the same way. Another thing, Michael Pittman. That's a trade / cut candidate that I think has to be watched over the course of these leagues. A lot of these expensive wide receivers out there, and then corner Charvarius Ward, another guy. Does he still want to play? I mean, that's going to be a big question for them. So, yeah, DeForest Buckner as well. Got to watch.
Okay. The logical next step from this is to talk about the Steelers, which is what I'll do, and talk about quarterback. Because,
damn it.
Oh gosh. I think last year I kept mocking them Jackson Dart for the same reason that I feel like Ty Simpson will be in first round talks. Like I don't like the player, but the need for the most important position in all of sports is so massive. Yeah. And they theoretically they have what? It says they have $42 million. That's enough to get a Malik Willis or sign a lower tier guy like a Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, then use some of the assets elsewhere. So
yeah,
it's really tricky. It's a whole new regime, but in the same way it's old. You're just going back to you're being actually we're gonna reinvent our scheme by going with a guy who is very much stuck in the past to Mike McCarthy. So yeah, if I were running things, I would just say take like a receiver on day one and then wait for like a Durrell or like a Kate Klubnik in like the 4th round. But yeah, it's so bleak. This is like the 5th transition year following the retirement of Big Ben. It's like last year I said this was going to be the year that they finally fell off and they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not that was indicative of any sort of quality of their football team, but you know.
No, go ahead. No, I was gonna say I'm completely in agreement, and I think, the thing with them is the age of this defensive line as well, right? Like the age of this defensive line brushes right up against that kind of fake competitive window that they view themselves in, and I think that's going to continue to drive them in the way of not just the Aaron Rodgers move, but what they tend to do after that. The realistic and smart thing to be here is a Malik Willis team, but and so it's incredibly frustrating to see that not go this way. But I'm very interested to see what the next steps are beyond whatever this Rodgers thing is, because I think, they're going to tell us a lot about the future of this franchise. So, yeah. I am going to. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go Green Bay.
Okay, that's your team. That's always your team.
They are always my team. Ethan Luditis knows. I was so high on this team going into this year. I was so high on this team going into December, really. And then the Micah Parsons injury, things fall apart. We know what happens. You're still going to be facing that going into this offseason. If I'm correct, I don't think Micah is going to be ready until like mid-season, right? I mean, torn ACL, it should be around there. So what do they look like defensively without him? And by losing Jeff Halfley, who I think was so crucial to their ability to function on defense without necessarily the same talent as some of these other fantastical contenders. He just allowed them to play a lot more freely, was great at disguising coverages, disguising blitzes, making things more complicated for opponents. And now they bring in a guy in Jonathan Gannon who is kind of MO is the opposite of that. It's a very static cover four, like we give you what we're going to give you. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out for this defense. And they also lose a lot. They're losing Quay Walker. I believe Devontae Wyatt. No, they extended Devontae Wyatt, right? But they have multiple free agents there and still have a need at cornerback, a serious need at cornerback. As far as depth, I really like Keyshawn Nixon. I am, a fan enough of Isaiah McDuffie, but I think having just more depth in that room is going to be important as they continue to look to grow. And not having a guy like Halfley in there to kind of cover up for their problems. So there is that. And then the turnover in the offensive line. We've talked about Rasheed Walker with just about every single team. And he's probably not going to be in this building. And they're talking about Elton Jenkins as a cut candidate. This is a guy who is essential to how they played. He might not want to play center anymore for them because, he was originally a guard and then threw a fit about having to play center. Does he want to be there? Zach Tom is getting up there in age. And, yeah, that room is a train wreck. And then you lose Romeo Dubs on top of that for a receiver room that is, been questioned over the last couple of years. So there's just so many questions swirling around. I think the first priority has to be defense, right? Just because that is the backbone of this team. That's how they're built. And I think they're facing the most turnover. But there's a lot going on for the Packers in a division that's going to be even tougher this year. So I'm very intrigued to see how they handle it. And not a lot of cap space at all. Or draft pick.
Yeah, they don't have one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No. Yep. Jeez.
I think I will go. I'm trying to make sure that we didn't already say the team, but I don't remember talking about them. So if I'm being an idiot, someone let me know. I think I'm saying the Atlanta Falcons here.
Didn't take them.
Feel free.
Harder. The A.
Yeah. We've talked a bit about cut candidates at the receiver spot. I think that there isn't a bigger one in football than Darnell Mooney, who's making a lot of money to have be in the 400-yard range in 2025.
I don't know though, because he was off injured. I don't know.
And that's true, but they aren't strapped for cash, but they could definitely use some more money. I think that their defense could use more help. In general, I think the secondary was not great. I don't think, and I hope that James Pierce is not playing football next season. So they could use more help on the defensive line. And then the most curious thing to me, Michael Penix, a player that I liked coming out of the draft, a player that I thought started the first like 3-ish games well and then completely shut down.
Mm.
Um, I don't really know how you address that quarterback situation there. Or, well, I don't think you're replacing him this early, but I don't know what you do to give to make sure he doesn't have a cop out of he needs more time or there's not enough help. I think that their priority almost has to be making sure the rest of the roster is strong enough to the point where they can either see if they have something with Penix or they can say it's time to cut our losses and move forward elsewhere.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy we've talked about it, right? 3 ACL injuries, is it now?
yeah.
Yes.
And you're bringing in a new offensive mind who does he really value that? And he's shown shown throughout his career the desire to that he has no, if he doesn't like a quarterback, he has no qualms about pushing them out of the building for his guy. He showed that a lot in Cleveland. So I think yeah, the quarterback question is going to be a serious thing. Yeah, and just a lot of room on defense. And what do they do with Jesse Bates? I think Jesse Bates is a cut candidate as well.
Mm. Okay. I'll go with the Dolphins here.
We're getting
Adam,
deep.
Adam was just talking about Jeff Halfley, and
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot to do with the secondary, and even defensive line because trade Jalen Phillips at the deadline, and you cut Bradley Chubb, so it's Chop Robinson and miscellaneous other things. So
Yeah.
I mean, I like Seiler and Kenneth Green enough, but secondary actually like seriously like didn't give up that many yards, but they were also just bad. They were just terrible. So
Yeah.
I think that secondary is the main option, but also receiver. Like Tyreek Hill's not on the team next year, and after like just the whole skill position group is sort of a mess. I mean, I like A Chain, fine. I like Jalen Waddle, fine, but I don't know. This whole team is a disaster because I haven't even brought up quarterback.
Yeah.
I went through 5 things before I talk about quarterback.
Yeah.
They're probably the most logical when we close team because did you know that he played on the Packers? Jeff Halfley was DC for the Packers. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but also just their money situation is not good either. It's like it's quite bad.
No. Yeah.
They'll be getting a ton of dead cap with all these cuts. So
Yeah.
I'll say secondary because logically I assume the board's going to fall in a way that both Delane and require there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I might end up being higher on Delane than most people, but I love the tape that I've watched so far.
I know.
Awesome. And I think edge is also, becoming a real thing. We forget the amount they gave up to get Chubb, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's like
this
that was
big deal.
yeah, and yeah, draft capital and all the guarantees.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a guy who they expected to be a franchise guy, just didn't work out. They let Phillips walk out the building as well, and so this is a room that looks quite dry right now. So I think, yeah, I mean, and Minka Fitzpatrick as well. I think that's a guy who could be a cut candidate. Just he played well enough last season, but that's a lot of money to have on the table. So it's this could be the worst team in football a year from now, and I will not be surprised at all. It is truly barren in Miami. I'll do Michael Cormelos a solid here.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Houston Texans, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about them over the next couple of weeks, so I'll keep it nice and brief. But this offensive line is a disaster, and they're going to have to figure out how they want to figure that out. It could be through the draft. Do they take a tackle and a guard? That's what I've been doing when I mock them. It could be through free agency. They have not quite enough money to be like a Rasheed Walker team or a David Edwards team, but enough money to kind of slide into the market of maybe kind of the mid-tier guys there. But they also, need to continue to shore up this defense and shore up the other positions on offense. They're going to lose Christian Kirk. You need a wide receiver too, especially because Nico Collins has a tendency to not stay healthy. The running game was awful because of the horrible offensive line, but also because they did not have a good running back this year. And so that's certainly a place they could add. And then the interior defensive line, it's names who played very well last season, but there's not really a standout guy there, and I think they could look to continue to provide depth and development there. So, Houston, an interesting spot at a crossroads. I think we talked about Jacksonville. We talked about New England. We talked about Buffalo. All those teams in kind of similar situations where they need to kind of buy in. And we'll see exactly how they're able to do that. They have less resources to be able to than say a New England or a Los Angeles Chargers. So that's going to be interesting to see how they're able to manage it.
Mm.
All right, I think that I'm gonna go with the Detroit Lions here. For a team whose identity for the past few years now has been, at least in large, so much of what they want to do depends on running the ball well. And for that to be the case, the inside of their offensive line was not very good.
Yeah.
That Frank Ragnow retirement really stung them, so much so to the point where he tried to play Superman and it didn't work out with the physical. But yeah, I think that there's what you have to decide is, do you want to prioritize that inside of the offensive line and upgrading there, or does it matter more to get more cornerback help? Terry and Arnold hasn't worked. It's been really ugly for Terry and Arnold, and their secondary hasn't been very strong in general. I mean, the safeties have been good, so I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that much.
But injured. I mean, Brian Branch is
that too. They lost Branch at times. It's just they're in a situation where they have to pick and choose what is the most important thing to them, because like a lot of the teams we've mentioned, they don't have a lot of money or overwhelming amounts of draft capital, and they've got to work around that. I think that their priority should be getting some versatility in the offensive line, so people you can move around, play at a few different positions. For what it's worth, they've drafted well recently. I say recently as in 2025. I like the Ratledge pick. I like Isaac Tassau, and so I think that they can. If they have another good draft, they can get this ship going in the right direction again. But all I could think of watching their games last season is the Dan Campbell quote of, "This might have been the only shot we had." Where at times, especially in that second half of the season, it looked like that big lead they had against San Francisco might have been their only shot. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in this offseason and if they can extend their window.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with the Bucks here because they have no juice on the line, zero juice. And they don't have a ton of money. And they are right smack dab in the middle of the first round. So with how these edges are performing in the combine and just the on-field production, I can imagine this will be one of those huge runs of a position group that leaves a team like Tampa in such an awkward situation. Like, oh shit. It's like hate to bring the Texans into this, but when we took known bust Andre Dillard and the Texans, oh fuck, oh god, we got to get Titus Howard in the first round. Okay, like that seems like what's going to happen, but obviously earlier in the round. But yeah, the Bucks. I cannot say anything good about their edge group in any
No.
capacity.
No.
They're
Hassan
really
Reddick, Eagles legend.
yeah, they're really missing Kalijah Kancey for a lot of the year. I thought he was off to a great start, and obviously Vita Vea is one of the best players at his position. But in this uber competitive division, I mean, we talked about the Falcons earlier, and like, unfortunately, one of their most potent pass rushers is probably never going to play again. But the Saints are going to be in the market for edge, as are the Panthers. So it's a very interesting situation for them because for the past, I mean, it's pretty much since Tom Brady was there, well, it's like it's the Bucks division to lose now, and now some of these teams are creeping up a little bit, not to the point where they're completely take. It's not like I don't think the Panthers are a lock to win the NFC South. I think that's absolutely not the case.
No.
And the Bucks have an aging roster. They have Mike Evans, a free agent. Um, I don't really know how much better they can get with the resources they have available. But again, edge is probably the most coveted position in this draft, and that's something they really have to make sure that they can hit on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. Interior offensive line, I think, as well, though.
Yeah.
That's a place where they haven't invested a lot over the past couple of years, and it's been a struggle because of that. So, how do they look to navigate that? They're probably going to lose Mike Evans. Do you want a wide receiver 3? There are places, and like you said, I like my New Orleans Saints, guys. I don't want to spoil how I'm gonna go about these next couple months, but that might be my might be my team as we go along. So we'll talk, but yeah. So we got 2 teams left. And
I don't care. You can go. It's
okay, you sure?
yeah.
Okay.
You can go Adam Carter, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna take the defending champs.
Okay.
I think they're the more interesting team between these two. I think they do not have a lot of holes, but they need to ensure that they re-sign the guys that they need to in order to fulfill the roster that they had a year ago. Kenneth Walker is a free agent. We've talked a lot about it. I don't think that's their biggest need, but that's a guy they look to re-sign. Their biggest need, I think, is still the interior offensive line. And continuing to shore up that spot opposite Greg Zabel, who was up and down this year, but will be kind of their franchise starter. Anthony Bradford was an atrocity and a disgrace to the legacy of this football team a year from now. So I think they have to upgrade there. And Jalen Sundell at center probably is a place where they can upgrade as well. So I think that's going to be the real starting point, is ensuring that they're still able to run the ball as effectively as they did over the second half of the season and continue to grow, because they might not get the same tackle health that they did this season. Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross have been prone to injuries over the past couple of years. How do you look to kind of, shore up so that it's not as reliant on them as it has become? Because I think if those guys go down long term in the middle of the season this year, this could look a lot like last year's Los Angeles Chargers in that same sense. A couple corner free agents, they'll figure that out. I think Job ends up a Seahawk once again. Drake Thomas probably does too. But interior offensive line, I think that's the goal.
All right. Unfortunately,
all right,
no.
Carter Watson.
You just got it.
Yeah, I believe that leaves me with the Denver Broncos. Yep.
Yep.
They're in a good spot. They went to the conference championship game. They could have potentially went to the Super Bowl if they had Bo Nix available, but we'll never know. Looking at the roster, you see a very well-rounded team, and they have money to spend. They're looking over $20 million in cap, so they don't have too many major free agents either. There's a Franklin Myers is a free agent, I think, and But beyond that, they're not in a position where they're losing a bunch of guys. And the thing that I guess I'll float into the open, which is going to be rather far fetched, or maybe not far fetched, but yeah, no, it is. It's just far fetched. There's no two ways around it. It's far fetched. But I think that there is a non-zero possibility where teams don't really draft Jeremiah Love high because he's a running
He's
back.
not going
And
at 30. He's not going at 30. He's not going at 30.
I don't think he's going at 30. I think that he could float to like 20 and they could, if they're really bored, they can move up, which again, it's very
Yeah.
far-fetched. But
I'm with that.
It's the last pick. It's fine.
I'm with that. And if Minnesota passes, I think they're a legitimate destination. I can see that. I thought you were going to go in a different direction. You can talk about that after you're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a they're in a good place. They're in a good place. They had a good season, and I like what they have building. Obviously, they've got a monster line, very strong defense. For Riley Moss gets a lot of heat at times, but I think there's worse players, noticeably worse players.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think they're in a good spot all around.
Yeah. If there's an AJ Brown team, this is the one.
Yes.
Yeah. To every extent.
I mean, other than the Pats, but that's like much.
That's just because he wants to go there, though. I think.
Yeah.
I think no team is going to give up a first and a second for AJ Brown. I believe that, but I think the Broncos have one of the things that the Eagles need, and they have a surplus of it, and that is outside corners. And so, is there a Riley Moss and a first-round pick and maybe a fourth for AJ Brown?
I mean, yes, but also
I think that's the best package that you could realistically receive for AJ Brown, and I think he would be thrilled to be within that offense and be with Sean Payton. And so, I don't like saying it. I don't like speaking it into existence, but that's the team to me.
I have a question. Have two white people that went to the same college together ever started in the same secondary?
Probably
not.
I would say, but before the year before the Civil Rights Act was passed, probably. But after that, I can't tell you.
That's insane.
Yeah, obviously, I want AJ Brown around a lot, but now I think that's my. If it has to happen, I think that's my rooting interest to have Riley Moss and Cooper DeJean reunited.
And then we draft Dylan Thieneman in the first round.
Yeah.
God. All right. Well, we made it, boys. Who are we firing?
Well, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Everybody's happy.
I know. We're in charge in this. Like, we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'll say. I mean, we can go Brandon Beane. Let's go Brandon Beane.
Okay.
We were just talking with the Bills earlier.
Yeah. I am going to fire Joel Embiid if he doesn't play on Tuesday because I'm going.
Okay, I was going to ask you about Tuesday. Yeah, I might go.
You might go? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll text me. We will discuss. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk soon.